podcasting from my closet in northern Japan. This is Reimagining Hustle, a podcast for entrepreneurial parents creating a life where business and parenthood live peacefully in the same space. I'm your host, Roxanne Merkett, a mom of two, microbusiness coach, and serial entrepreneur on a journey to prove that it is possible to do what you love without sacrificing all your precious time. Let's do this. Welcome back to Reimagining Hustle. I'm so excited for you to meet my guest today. I have Tatiana Tsoir with me. Tatiana, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, I'm delighted to have you. It's so fun. We are on video, so this is an audio podcast, but I get to see the books behind you and this beautiful quote, never underestimate the power of a girl with a book. I'm already so excited to have this conversation with you and just seeing all of this. So would you just tell us about you? Tell us about the work that you do and kind of your journey to get there.
So I actually am a couple of things. I am a CPA tax geek. I own a boutique tax and accounting firm in New York. We work with the companies all over the country, but I'm also an author. So my first book, Dream Bold, Start Smart, came out on March 16th. And I'm also a course creator and a mom pivot coach. So I help moms find their genius and apply it in a meaningful way and either start a business or do something that allows them to be flexible and bring money and do something for themselves. The journey has been quite interesting, if I say so myself. I actually wanted to be a lawyer for many years since I was a teenager. And I actually even started law school. It was kind of like a combo undergrad, grad, where I'm from. So I did 2 years out of 5. And then I came to the United States and just circumstances worked out so that I stayed here and I transferred to a college in New York and realized that, in the US, it's a graduate program as opposed to an undergrad. So I decided, okay, so I'm going to finish my bachelor's first. Great. Then time came to choose your major. And I thought, I was already working as a bookkeeper at the time. And I thought, what would be a meaningful skill that I could get to get me through college and then through law school. So I picked accounting. And then my college really is great because even though it's not really known for its accounting program, the accounting department is really awesome. And they've really brainwashed me and probably other people to, they said, well, if you're already an accounting major, why don't you just sit for the CPA exams? And I thought, why not? I'm already doing this whole thing, So I did. And I kind of got into really loving the numbers. And I was working as a bookkeeper. So I was applying, and accounting starts with bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is the essential part of accounting. It's the foundation of accounting. And so I was applying stuff that I learned in the evening, at my work the next day. And that was really powerful. So I got to practice what I was learning and really got into it and really worked with small businesses. And then a couple of years into it, I wanted to finish college before the CPA rules in New York changed. So I wanted to get grandfathered in. So I wanted to take school full time, and I was taking 5 to 6 classes a semester, and my job just couldn't handle the schedule. So
many classes.
And I wanted to take teachers that I really enjoyed, not just, to get this thing over with. So I quit the full-time job and I started looking for like a part-time, like a 30-hour-a-week type thing. But then what I realized was that there's much more demand for a bookkeeper that's like once a week or twice a month or a couple of hours, here and there than one job. And it actually paid a lot more. So
interesting.
Yeah. So I found, got like 4 or 5 clients. I probably worked about 40 to 50 hours a week. I just didn't work 9 to 5, and I was able to take the classes I wanted to take and things like that. And because I've worked with all these small businesses, I got an insight into 1, different industries, and 2, different leadership styles. So I worked with different people and really got an insight into all these different things. And that set me up for being able to advise clients. Then I got into the accounting firm because I didn't need to have for the licensing requirements, I did need an experience under a licensed professional. So I went for a small firm, although my ego wanted me to go for a large accounting firm.
Yes.
So I did, I graduated in 2008 when nobody was hiring. And 2009, I basically took that time while still working with my small business clients to take the exam, to pass the exam. And then by the end of that year, I found a job at a small firm. And at first I was like, oh, it's a small firm. But actually, it's been very fortunate because at a large accounting firm, you learn how to do spreadsheets.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also learn how to do one step in the long process. And you basically do the same thing over and over again. So in a small firm, you get to do everything from day one. And that's what happened to me. So I got to do business tax returns in the first week of me being in the firm. So
wow.
In 2 years, I've gotten, enough experience. And also I had a guru on my speed dial. When I got pregnant, I wanted to not have the stress of a full-time job. So I quit and started my own firm. I already had a couple of clients, before that. Yeah. I just added a tax component to that. And here I am today, an author of a book and mom pivot coach and an owner of a CPA firm.
You are a busy woman. My goodness.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Okay. Let me ask some follow-up questions then here. So I love this journey too of wanting to be a lawyer, but this big shift, right? Of kind of almost having to be in the right place at the right time to have the shift happen. Clearly you enjoy what you do. I can see it as you talk about it. I remember when I was in business school, I had my very first accounting class. The professor got up and said, some of you will love this class and become accountants, and some of you will hate this class and will hire accountants. And I was like, number 2, please, for me. I love math, but accounting just was stressful. So I would love to know what should small businesses be doing in preparation to hire an accountant, or how do they know that they're ready to hire somebody like you?
So it's a really great question because I've spent a lot of time actually testing it out and thinking about it and kind of testing it on my clients when I was writing my book. Mm-hmm. So it's not part of the main core of the book, but it's part of the appendix where I talk about the milestones and the types of accountants. And, unfortunately, due to technological progress, accountants have been taking on a lot more clients because we could. But then that created a commoditization of the accounting service. So it's really hard to, change a business owner's mindset that an accountant is much more than just a once a year tax person plugging numbers into a tax return. The right accountant can be and should be a part of your team, a part of your support team. I work with some clients daily and weekly and monthly, depending on the situation. And we do different things. We help manage cash flow or plan things or understand, how the business is operating and performing and things like that. But that really is the cornerstone of the problem of commoditization of accounting service. And, for someone who's been paying $1,000 to get their taxes done, to pay all of a sudden $24,000 or $36,000 a year, sometimes it's hard to get past that price tag. But when you realize how much money you're saving, you realize that actually that person's paying for themselves. Mm-hmm. But that type of accountant, that caliber of accountant where I am, there's not many of us, maybe 2,000-3,000 people in the US. But that caliber accountant, you don't need that type of accountant when you're making $100,000. Mm-hmm. You just need a really good bookkeeper and a really good firm that can do the compliance work, which means, prepare your taxes and file them. Mm-hmm. So I think that once you get to a point where you are either making $250,000 net, $250,000 of net income or more, or you're paying more than 35% of effective tax, and I can explain what that means. Then you need to have someone like me to maybe get a second opinion consultation.
That makes a lot of sense. So how about for under that $250,000 mark? What do you suggest there?
So if you're making under $250,000, you maybe don't need someone like me to work with you weekly, but maybe monthly. So that would still be cheaper.
Mhm.
The real value starts with not only the tax related matters, it also continues into the CFO type service, which
Mhm.
is a fractional CFO.
Mhm.
So you get to have someone, go through the numbers with you so that it's not scary. I
Mhm.
had a client who, we had the prior person who was working who got a full-time job, which is how I landed the client, um, used spreadsheets for everything and spreadsheet for cash flow planning, forecasting. And my new client found a mistake. There was a missing, there was an extra column, and basically that screwed up the formula. And he thought he was going to have a really great year that year, but actually turned out that he was like negative cash every month.
Oh my word.
So after Excel didn't work for him anymore. And so I offered a solution through the software that we've been using for bookkeeping. We've created that, tested that. He was really skeptical the first 2 months. The first month we were reviewing the budget versus actuals, because the only thing that the Excel didn't do was that,
Mm.
comparing budget to actuals. I brought up the fact that it seemed like UPS bills were a lot higher. And my client said, well, because my sales were higher. And I said, well, it's not proportionate. Your sales are higher, maybe 20%, but your UPS bill is higher of 50%. He said, okay, let's see what happens next month. Next month, same thing.
Mhm.
So he said, fine, I'll look into it. And sure enough, this was February that we were kind of reviewing. And sure enough, he found out that as effective January 1st, UPS changed the way it calculated price on its boxes. And he was basically losing money.
Ah.
So it's not just, getting your taxes done. That's great. But then how do you actually create strategies that are specific to you and your family, your person, that actually address your goals and allow you to pay less in tax legally?
Mhm.
That's one thing. How do you actually manage your business so that it's meaningful and you're not wasting money? You know exactly how much money you'll have every month, whether you can afford to hire someone or buy a new truck or whatever it may be. And then also, there is a concept that I don't know if you know, but it's called a family office. So the ultra wealthy of the world usually have a family office, a bunch of people, usually anywhere from 3 to 10 professionals, basically managing a family's wealth.
Mm.
And there's always a tax professional there and always a wealth manager. And typically, the only people who've ever had access to something like this were the ultra wealthy. Well, now someone like me can offer what's called a fractional family office. So same setup, but for not ultra wealthy, for everybody else, basically.
Yeah.
So there's so much more to an accountant. So that's really my point.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you explained all of this too, because I think that there's many entrepreneurs, especially new entrepreneurs, who hear accounting and like they just want to put their fingers in their ears and say, la la la, I don't, it's fine. It's just like, tell me what I'm making and tell me what I'm spending and it'll all work out. Right. And it's kind of
Yeah.
scary. It's this like scary, like lurking blob in the corner. And so I appreciate you speaking so freely and so just so openly about kind of options and what hiring somebody like you really can do for their business. So thank you for that. Will you tell us a little bit more about the book?
Sure. So I wanted to write a book. At first, I guess the first idea came maybe in 2018, 2017. And it was more of an idea to get a book out, not write a book, like
Okay.
just to get a business card book out. So I kind of shelved that idea. I didn't know how to approach it really well. I didn't want to put a lot of time into it. But I don't know if you're familiar with the system called Profit First.
Yes.
So I actually have been one of my top clients, certainly one of my favorite ones, has been struggling financially in his business. And, he just made a couple of bad decisions in one year. And then he had to borrow every year during the cash crunch month where, he had to pay a significant amount of money out for the next collection and for this collection and this kind of stuff. So he read a book, Profit First. the piggy bank one. And he texted me, Tatiana, I read this book. We're doing this. I've already set up 2 accounts. He started with 2 accounts. We're going to transfer X% into these accounts, whatever. So I started doing it, and I've been doing it for 3 years. In 1 year, he stopped borrowing during the September cash crunch. In 3 years, his debt was down 60%.
Wow.
And so I've really seen the impact of the system. So I finally got a chance to read the book 3 years later. And I texted this client of mine, and I was like, I read this book. It's freaking amazing. I love the concept. It makes so much sense. And he was like, where were you 3 years ago? So it was really fun. I called Profit First Professionals. I joined the organization. I'm still a member. It's been a couple of years since then, but in 2019, I was for an event there. I don't remember what it was at the Profit First headquarters, and because I've worked with fashion companies quite a lot, I was like, I can write a derivative book. So there is Profit First for e-commerce. There's Profit First for contractors. There's now many more derivatives, but at that point it was only 2. So I wanted to talk to Mike about writing a derivative book. And I was actually leaving for a vacation, my last vacation before COVID. And so we spoke with Mike, and he was like, sure, you can write a derivative book. That's what it's going to be, and that's how it's going to work. But, why don't you come to this event for authors that I'm throwing? And I was like, okay. So he sent me the invite. It was an event in middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. It was really middle of nowhere, and so I came to this event, and I was sitting there. Mike and his writing partner and his book launch manager were sharing all these strategies of launching a book. Wow. And what a life of an author is. And I found myself thinking that as much as I love accounting and tax, I don't want to do only that for the rest of my life. I want to do it, but I want to do other things too.
You don't have a life outside of that.
So I gave up on the idea of writing a book that's just a business card book that will help me build my business. And coincidentally, about 6 months before that, I actually stopped working with startups, because typically startups don't need, but usually don't have the budget for someone like me. But then as I was developing my core message of this book and the ideal reader who the book is for, I realized that the people who need me most can't afford me. So I wanted to kind of fill that void and create a roadmap for someone who maybe is ready to start a business, maybe has an idea, maybe just wants to be their own boss and don't necessarily know what exactly they want to do. Something that's in plain English, something that they can take and start and remove the anxiety and be super clear and confident in what they're doing when it comes to money, numbers, and taxes. So that's how this book came about.
Brilliant. I already know that as soon as we're done, I'm going to go buy my copy. And so that'll be really fun. I'm going to ask you where we can find that at the end of the podcast so that our listeners don't have to remember that. So before then, we've got all sorts of fun things to talk about, but tell us a little bit more about being a mom pivot coach. What does this mean?
So this is something new that I've been exploring, because I found myself being really good at helping someone find what it is that they can do that's meaningful to them. I've had a couple of talks with moms and realized that I have a gift of, a person says, I like to do flowers. I like to deal with flowers. I just love that. And my brain works in a way that I find a way to make it a business. How can you actually make money? So for moms, I kind of called it the second act. We change when we give birth, and it's not an immediate change. It usually takes, I would say, 9 to 12 months after the child is born for us to realize that our values have shifted, that our priorities have shifted. And many moms find themselves not really passionate about the career that they've had. Maybe they didn't have such a great career. Maybe they didn't really have passion for what they were doing before. Many rediscover themselves, enjoying doing craft stuff with their kids or cooking or whatever. And I'm really good at coaching on the spot and basically saying, you could do this, but if you were to do it, my experience is that and that. And you should really pay attention to what you see here and there. So I've really been really good at that. And I've decided to really take that to the next level. And I will have a group coaching, kind of like mastermind for moms to come in and get some support and help them figure out what to do and how to start. And that's partly based on my book, kind of the how to start part, but also kind of understand what it is that they can do. And if a mom doesn't, let's say, have a specific passion for anything, or maybe not passionate enough to pursue it as a business or as a career, maybe offer something else, maybe offer a different skill set or a different idea for doing something meaningful.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So Tatiana, you are a mom as well. You have one child?
Two
children. Okay, awesome. I heard that in the story, the one child being born. I wasn't sure if there were more after that. So how you mentioned this, kind of generally speaking, that being a mom does change us, right? Anybody who's become a mother will attest to that. But I would love to know how being a mom during this entrepreneurial journey that you've just described has changed you individually.
So I wanted to raise my own kids. It doesn't mean that I didn't have help. Like, I had a cleaning person at some point that started, not right away, and other things. My mom was helping out kind of with the kids in the beginning, but I realized, and it wasn't immediate. Like I said, it was maybe a couple of months into being a mom that I wanted to be there for the kids. And it was important. I realized that it was important for me to be the one to put them on the bus in the morning, be the one to meet them from the bus in the afternoon. And although today I missed it.
Always, right? I did that. I missed mine yesterday. We're good.
So it was important for me. It was, it doesn't mean that I do it all on my own, but it does mean that I want to be present. And it's different for every mom and everyone. But that was kind of something that I felt that I will want. And that's why I quit the farm. And I always knew that I wanted to be my own boss. Mm-hmm. And I always knew that I wanted to do something that's meaningful for me. I've been always passionate about accounting. Not everybody has that luck to be, to have a skill or passion for something. So the way it changed me, it was kind of gradually over the years, where my practice has been growing, and I've been a traditional accountant before. So up until 2018 or so, and my firm has been growing, but has been growing kind of as incoming leads. So like I never did any outbound outreach to find clients that actually are my ideal clients. Never thought about it for a number of years. And then I noticed that as my practice was growing, as I was getting more clients, I was getting very busy during tax season, but my bank account didn't reflect the proportionate increase in being busier. So I ended up, a couple of tax seasons, I ended up working on the weekends. So my whole idea of being there for my kids kind of went out down down the drain. And I was like, something's wrong. So that year, that was 2018, I actually won an award from Intuit. Intuit is the, QuickBooks creator and TurboTax creator. I made it to the top 15 of the accounting firms around the world. And that really prompted me to realize that I have a skill and passion, and I've got something to share. Immediately, I got into the tax planning coaching, so technical training that allowed me to really reinvent my tax practice.
Oh, okay.
Also business coaching for accountants specifically, got into that, transformed my business completely. And ever since, I think it was mid-2019, I have incorporated a structured week where I don't work weekends. Sometimes I have to work till 6 or 7, but very rarely during tax season.
Wow.
Um, and off season, I work 2 to 3 days a week tops for this business.
Wow.
And I've tripled my revenue since then too. Um,
Less work, more money.
so
We'd love to hear it. That's the story. Yes.
exactly. So that really how motherhood has transformed me. Yes, last year was off limits because of PPP. My husband was in the hospital for surgeries, a couple of surgeries during this whole COVID thing.
Oh
The kids
my,
were home. It was a little crazy.
that's a
So
lot. Yeah.
that didn't work really well. And I was editing my book and, in the publishing process and stuff. So that I wasn't very structured that period of my life, but
Mhm.
the rest of it, starting May through the end of December, I still didn't work weekends. I still was able to focus on the tax business only 2 days a week, and I didn't bring on new clients because I was writing a book and launching courses. But that's kind of that was my choice. I could if I wanted to. So it really changed me in many ways because now I can take vacations and not think about you know doing anything working. I no longer understand accountants who I belong to a lot of accountant forums, and what you see in the past. So I've finished my all of my clients by April 15th. So like I've been basically on vacation already and stuff like that, but most accountants are struggling still, for a Monday deadline. And I'm like, I can't relate to that.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm not even in the accounting world. And I know that you just assume like accountants are not accessible during tax season, right? So that's to not work weekends, to have that structure on your hours is just absolutely incredible to me. Do you experience guilt when you do have to have those longer days, or when you are called upon to work a little bit beyond that?
I did in the beginning, but not anymore because of the structured week. I kind of so right now I can tell you a little bit about the structured week, how what it looks like, and
Yeah.
kind of why I no longer feel any guilt.
Please.
Um, so right now, off season, I basically work 2 days a week on my business, Mondays and Thursdays.
Mhm.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I typically do content creation for the course, for the quiz, whatever it is that I'm doing for that side of the business. Being a mom pivot coach, creating different things for that, and then Fridays is either I do a manicure or I take a day off or I connect with colleagues on tax or colleagues on courses. It's my connection day.
Mhm.
So I'm sometimes, unexpected things happen. And let's say on a Monday, I would work a little later so that I don't have this overflow onto Tuesday, so that Tuesday I can focus on the course stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't no longer feel guilt because of that, because um, I can take a Friday off and take them to get ice cream or whatever. And I'm able to afford vacations and
Mhm.
things like that. That's also important. We went for a vacation first in 2 years because of COVID.
COVID, yeah.
Um, and the kids like had a blast. It
Mhm.
was like our first vacations. They've gotten a lot bigger in 2 years. Obviously, it's a huge change, and it's just they had a blast. And the way I can afford to do that is by sometimes once in a while. It doesn't happen often, but once in a while doing a little late Monday.
Mhm. Mhm. So there's no guilt around that. That's such the way to do it too, right? I ask this question to every one of the people that I interview, and I feel like it's about half and half. Some people are like, "Yep, absolutely, mom guilt. It's so real," and other people are like, "No, no," because of answers like yours. So, Tatiana, I would love to know, what is one thing that a business could do today to set up their finances better?
I think that, and that's something I've identified as I was writing my book. That one of my best clients that I've already talked about said once to me. He said, Tatiana, accountants don't start businesses; visionaries do. And it took me a while to really understand what he meant by that. But the reality is that he's absolutely right. We accountants, we run the numbers and we're like, nope, the math doesn't work. That's it. We're done. I'm not going to even try to do that. But, but visionaries don't run the numbers, and they should, but they don't run the numbers, and they start a business. And then all of a sudden, you're running into problems and things like that. So I really think that my, I guess, idea, my desire would be that people don't fake it till you make it with the numbers and taxes and money. My most successful clients have faced their numbers at some point on their journey. Not everyone have faced them since the beginning, but they really felt liberated once they did. And it really unleashed the power and the potential of their business when they did. So one thing that a business can do today is to set up their books so that they can understand their operations, to look at their reports. And I had this one client, a new client a couple of years ago, and I said, you should be looking at your reports every week. So a couple of weeks go by and I asked him, and he says, listen, I've been looking at the reports, but I have no idea what it means. And that's okay. That's actually great, because every time you look at the reports, you see something, you ask a question, get an answer, you get it. So as you move through it, you don't need to learn everything right away. You don't need to become an accountant to be good at business. But that's really what's powerful. And what I've seen to be life-changing is facing your numbers and facing it early.
Such great advice. Thank you for that. Thank you for letting me tap into your expertise there. I want to ask you a question about the name of this podcast. So I named this podcast Reimagining Hustle because when I first started my entrepreneur journey, I was not a parent. I started and I loved this hustle culture, this go, 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 work all night, whatever, this nonsense, right? And then I had my first child and my whole world stopped. And I did the same thing you've described, right? Of this idea of, okay, something's got to change. Things have got to shift around a little bit. So I've been on this quest to reimagine what this idea of hustle looks like. And I get the feeling that you probably were a hustler as well and had your children, and you've described that shift that has happened. So how have you reimagined hustle?
I realized that I love being busy. I love doing the things that I do. And a lot of it, you can call it hustling, but a lot of it is not really hustling. It's more jumping around and sometimes not having a clear direction. So I feel like busy used to be something that you're like, oh, I'm busy, I'm super busy. And it's like, I should be respected for that. But it's
almost
actually
like a badge of honor, right?
Right, exactly. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for a term. It's a badge of honor. And it shouldn't be, because I'd rather be less busy, make more money, and take more time off than anything else. So that's where the reimagining part comes in. It's up to you to do that. It's up to you to reimagine your own business and to stop being just busy. Actually make progress towards doing whatever it is that you want to do. And there's nothing wrong with, working a lot and not taking time off. Some people love that, and it's totally fine. But if you're a mom, let's say, for me, I feel like just being busy is not good enough.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Oh, I'm going to needle point that on a pillow, right? Just being busy is not good enough. Oh, thank you. Tatiana, would you give us a pep talk for other parents on this entrepreneur journey who just need a little bit of a pick me up?
Sure. So I believe in women-owned businesses. I believe in parent-owned businesses. And that doesn't mean, even though we live in a capitalist society, it doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice one for the other. You don't need to sacrifice being a good mom and running a business and making a difference. And I've kind of had back and forth with, about that with myself at some point. And what I found was that, yes, I want to set boundaries. There are things that are non-negotiable for me, like working weekends. And frankly, as the older I get, the less I can work on a weekend. It's really hard for me. I found that if you set up your business right, if you invest in yourself, that's the best investment you can make. And the reason is that small businesses, let's say in the US, the biggest employer is a small business, a mom and pop shop. Mm-hmm. Because of that, the tax code is geared towards small businesses. There are provisions there that not everybody knows, but that are geared towards helping small businesses to pay less tax. Also, because of that, the real wealth is created by these mom and pop shops, by these small businesses. And I personally think that when women start businesses, especially after being a mom, that's a different kind of a business, because those businesses are usually created with passion, with the desire to change the world. And really, women-owned businesses lift up economies. Women-owned businesses change the world in many ways. And we can have an impact with a business while being a great parent. That does not mean that you work more than you would work at a full-time job. Not at all. If you set it up right, or if you transform or reimagine it, you have a chance to creating a business that runs itself and be the parent that you want to be.
Thank you. My goodness, Tatiana, I have learned so much from you. I have loved our time together. So thank you. Would you please tell us where we can find you online? We need more of you.
Sure. Connect with me on social media, Tatiana Tsoir, pretty much everywhere. And also my website, talktotatiana.com, has some resources, has the book link, has the podcast, has just ways to connect and work or just talk to me.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that we link everything in the show notes. Tatiana, thank you. It has been an absolute treat to talk to you today. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Roxanne.
Thanks for listening to Reimagining Hustle with Roxanne Merkett. If you like the show and want more, check out reimagininghustle.com and please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back next week with another episode. See you soon.